So one thing I want you to keep in mind is just that absolute value basically just means the magnitude of a real number without regard to its sign. So here if we have the absolute value of -9, that just means that this has a value of 9. And another rule, just to kind of refresh, if we are dividing by a negative, so here if we were solving this inequality, we would be dividing by a negative, we would flip the sign. So there we get x is greater than or equal to 3, and that would be our final expression. So just remember to flip the sign if you are dividing or multiplying by. So here we want to remember that absolute value is just a way of grouping numbers, and you can always treat absolute value symbols just as you would parentheses. So we can rewrite this as 2x minus 18 equals 24. So we just distributed. Now we can see, if we want to make our math a little simpler, that 2 can go into each number. So we can divide everything by 2, and we get x minus 9, let me don't lose my absolute value symbol, equals 12. Now the third rule, if you look on your sheet, is to make two equations. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this first as x minus 9 equals -12, and x minus 9 equals 12. So I add 9 to this side, I get x equals 21, and when I do the same to this side, I get x equals -3. Now, if you look at what the problem says here, it says that x is less than 0, meaning that we can ignore this one because we know it can only have one solution, and this x has to be equal to -3 because it has a value of less than 0. X has to equal -3. We can now plug it into the other side of the equation. Well, each time we're going to plug in -3 for x, where we have y times x equals 15. And again, we're going to separate it and make it into two equations because we do have absolute value symbols here, where this side's going to be equal to 15, and we're going to do a separate equation, and this is going to be equal to -15. So if we do algebra to both sides and we divide by -3, over here we're going to get y equals -5, and on this side we're going to get y equals 5. But now if we look at this piece of information that the problem gives us, we know that y has to be greater than 0, meaning it cannot be a negative number. Remember what exactly the SAT is asking for. So here it wants the value of x plus y. So remember, we can do all that work for the problem, but this problem is not looking for a solution set, so we need to figure out what x plus y is. So we found x plus y. We found that x is equal to -3 and y is equal to 5. Therefore, -3 plus 5 has a value of 2, which is choice C. So earlier in the video I did mention rules for inequalities, and some of these absolute value problems have inequalities in them. For example, if we have the absolute value of x is greater than 30, on a number line it would look like this, where we take all these values greater than 30, but also if we plug in -45 and take the absolute value, well, yes, this still works because 45 is greater than 30, so that checks out. So all of these numbers on the number line also work. So just be careful when you're looking at some of these problems, and sometimes drawing a number line and making a little picture will help you.